kachenu, namra nchi yetu, namra kachenu, namra nchi yetu, namra kachenu, namra nchi yetu, namra kachenu, namra nchi yetu.
Namra, serving with passion.
This is yet another edition of Namra Kachenu, where tax, customs and excise matters are the focus. I am Yeruke Kurondrokade, keeping you company for the next 26 minutes or so. In our show, Namra trains on valuation, classifications, risk management and statistics. Namra adopts standards for the appointment of third-party agents. And Namra implements the SADC electronic certificate of origin. These and many other stories coming your way. One of Namra's primary objectives is to invest in its people to ensure that traders and taxpayers get world-class service. Now, in line with that, Namra hosted training on valuation, statistics, and risk management, as well as classification. And this is what we captured for you. That training took place at Keetmanshoop recently.
Good day to you all. My name is Stanley Gurirab. I'm the Manager for Customs Valuation and Classification at Windhoek, Namra Head Office. We have come to the end of the awareness training offered to Namra Customs and Excise officials in all 5 regions. This training started on 3rd October 2022 and ends on 12th January 2023. Awareness training was initiated to identify and address revenue gaps during the clearing process by sensitizing Namra Customs and Excise officials on the proper use of classification rules and tools, valuation methods and strategies, risk management techniques, and the importance of data capturing in the customs management system called Asukuda World. This awareness training was done in line with Namra's strategic goal to invest in Namra and its people by building technical capacities amongst Namra customs staff to better service delivery to taxpayers and traders. Hence, Namra is optimistic about the future and believes that such training offered to Namra customs staff will help taxpayers and traders to be served with clear objectives and mandates. Rest assured that the teams in the region will assist you with all the information you may require from the customs and excise point of view. Thank you.
Going to be deleted from the HS code for the typewriters was actually deleted because it's not been traded for anymore. Laptops, phones, they've actually taken over. And then I will talk of the clarification of the HS text. You know there are section, chapter notes, and subheading notes. So now, as much as those amendments are coming forth, they must still make us understand. We need to understand, but like in the chapters, it should be added if it was not there. Why were those products actually added in the specific section or chapter or what? So like they also made clarification on those.
Towards the end of last year, Namra approved the standard operating procedures for the appointment of third-party agents, which took effect on the 3rd of January this year. Now, this applies to taxpayers who fail to pay their tax liabilities as and when they fell due. Now, to expand on this, he is the head of domestic taxes.
One of the functions of Namra is to collect unpaid taxes. And it's on this premise that Namra has developed standard operating procedures and communicated the content to the taxpayers. These standard operating procedures inform the taxpayers of what they need to do when they receive notices from Namra. The first notice informs them of the outstanding taxes and asks them to pay. The taxpayers then have an option to either pay such an outstanding amount or to object to such an amount if it appears to be incorrect. And this notice is valid for 21 days. The second notice, which is the final notice to the taxpayers, will inform them that an amount has remained outstanding and needs to be paid. And it points out imminent steps that will be taken to recover such an outstanding amount, which include the appointment of a third-party agent. This notice is valid for a period of 14 days. If a taxpayer fails to comply with this notice, they will then be served with a notice that shows that a third-party agent has been appointed. Now, a third-party agent is any person who holds money for or on behalf of the taxpayer. Such an agent will then be appointed by NAMRA to pay over a specified amount of money to NAMRA, and they need to comply with such a demand or such instructions, otherwise they will be personally held liable for such an outstanding debt. This notice can be withdrawn, and it can only be withdrawn if it transpires that an amount is not due, or an amount has been paid, or the taxpayer has made arrangements to settle the outstanding debt. These are the only instances where a notice to agent can be withdrawn. So the model for NAMRA is really first to educate the taxpayers before any action is taken, to provide a service, and then finally, when all else fails, will then enforce the law.
NAMRA has implemented yet another customs modernization program called the SADC Electronic Certificate of Origin, joining 5 other member states of the Southern African Development Community, SADC. Now, the certificate is implemented to ensure that it facilitates the ease of movement of goods and services, and also conforms with the SADC rules of origin.
Everything becomes it's electronic, whatever we do. Equally, the benefits to NAMRA includes secure trading environment, increased transparency, time and cost effective, reduction in origin fraud, due to the fact that the system is equipped with security features such as online electronic certificate of origin authenticity verification, optimal watermarking technology to distinguish between original and copies of certificate of origins issued.
Allow me at this juncture to hand over officially the e-certificate of origin package for the successful implementation of this instrument and concept by Namibia. Commissioner Customs, on behalf of the Commissioner General, the Commissioner of Namibia Revenue Authority or Service, you are here to receive this package, which is made by user requirement, and you also the e-certificate of origin requirement for you as management to be in a better position to assess and be well informed in terms of what it entails and guide appropriate your team.
It has been a month since the implementation of this e-certificate, and we now want to find out how the implementation phase has been to date.
We launched the SADC Electronic Certificate on the 6th of December. That was basically to promote inter-regional trade and also to bring services closer to the people. And also the aspect of innovation, that is the objective of NAMRA. Since the launch of the SADC Electronic Certificate, we still had to proceed with the southern region, which we have now completed, and the traders out there are encouraged to engage NAMRA and to online register and apply for the Certificate of Origin, so as to start reap off the benefits of the SADC Electronic Certificate of Origin which is saving in terms of cost and time. It is in terms of following the application process, because at the click of the button they can follow that, and it also assists them in keeping track record of all the applications and certificates of origin that was issued on their behalf. On the part of NAMRA, the benefit basically is that there is a risk management component, in the sense that there's a safety feature built into the program so that the certificate cannot be falsified, and also it alleviates the aspect of origin fraud, in the sense that we can then control and then liaise with other customs administrations in the regions. So let's make use of the benefits that are out there, and let's start making use of the SADC electronic certificate of origin. I thank you.
In a few weeks' time, it will be 2 years since the establishment of the Namibia Revenue Agency. Has it met its objectives? We want to find that out, and we will be engaging the Minister of Finance and Public Enterprises for his take.
We administer tax and custom laws so efficiently and consistently. We are ethical, effective in changing lives. We are there for you. This is your revenue. NAMRA, serving with passion to positively impact the livelihood of every Namibian.
You're still tuned into NAMRA Kachenu, and as indicated, we are in conversation with the Minister of Finance and Public Enterprises, Honorable Ipumbu Shimi. Honorable Minister, it's a pleasure having you on NAMRA Kachenu.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Is it too late to say compliments for the new year, or do we say that up to March?
No, in fact, somebody was telling me that until June, you can still
June.
Happy New Year. Until you are in the next half. In the next half, then you start thinking about Christmas. So I think a Happy New Year is still welcome.
No, we're happy that you have actually positively responded to our invitation. And here on NAMRA Kachenu, we're just focusing on messages for NAMRA. Now, you have been involved with the creation of NAMRA long before you were appointed the Minister of Finance. Let's reflect on that for a moment.
Yes, that's very true. I believe in my previous role or my previous job as an employee of the Bank of Namibia, I have been actively involved with the discussions of creating a NAMRA sort of an institution. Of course, obviously, as advisor to finance. You see, the bank is a advisor by law. Is an advisor to the Minister of Finance, an economic advisor to the Minister of Finance. In the research that the Bank of Namibia conducts, we realize that it's important that we need to strengthen our tax administration system, because, you know, if a country does not have a strong tax administrator, it's as good as not having a country, because you can't have sovereignty unless you have fiscal sovereignty. You have resources to fund development, and we then felt that it's important that we strengthen our tax administration. We look at different options. How do you strengthen tax administration? One of the things that we have realized, for instance, was it was difficult for government, for the Minister of Finance, to attract the right skills in the tax administration outfit of government. And therefore, we then felt that we need to look at different options, and that's how NAMRA came into being. And of course, after many debates and discussions, and eventually we reach a consensus that it is important that we establish a new outfit that is going to focus on tax administration, and is going to improve tax administration.
Mm-hmm. And in the thinking then, what were those characters, those features that will come with the semi-autonomous revenue agency that were absent within the government structure?
The key one is really the ability to attract the right skills. Because if you really want to catch those who are not paying tax, and those who are not paying tax have got all the skills that they have, let's talk about transfer pricing, for instance. These entities employ experienced accountants, lawyers, to avoid tax. And now, if you are going to catch them, you also need to have matching skills on your side. So and for you to be able to attract those skills, government was already struggling to attract those skills, and therefore it was not going to be successful to continue with that sort of strategy. So skill was really the key issue that convinced all of us that we need to change. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that happened.
Yeah.
NAMRA was established on the 7th of April 2021. It has been about 22 months down the line. What are you happy about?
Well, I'm happy with the progress that I'm seeing. It's still early days that NAMRA is still a baby, is still establishing itself, but I think even being a baby, we can already see a significant difference between what we had before and what we have now in terms of compliance, for instance. I see a lot of emphasis on compliance, and that seems to be bearing some fruits, because we see revenue picking up from compliance efforts. That's one. I'm also seeing NAMRA being more upfront in terms of educating the public, because that's very, very critical. It's important to educate the public on the importance of paying tax. And once we have done that job, then enforcement, becomes less and less burdensome, because people will be willing to pay tax willingly. So you don't have to go and chase them up to be able to recover tax from them. So the education part, I see that NAMRA is also very active in educating the taxpayers, and this is bearing fruits. And I just want to congratulate NAMRA for doing that, and encourage you to continue on that.
From the various engagement that NAMRA would have had with its various stakeholders, you would have seen issues of tax policies emerging, which falls beyond the jurisdiction of NAMRA. What are the effective measures that one can employ to ensure that there is a clear dividing line between tax administration issues and tax policy issues? Yeah,
I think the law, I believe the law is very clear as to what are the responsibilities of NAMRA. Of course, to the layperson in the street, they don't see a difference between NAMRA and the Minister of Finance, which is responsible for tax policy. NAMRA is responsible for collection. Yeah, go and collect government revenue and hand it over to the Minister of Finance to allocate that revenue to different functions of government. So NAMRA is running ahead, is established. We are yet to establish a tax policy office. So in fact, we have started the structure and everything is approved. The head of the tax policy unit has actually been appointed, so we will soon be welcoming that head. And then I think from there, I believe things are going to start, because the tax policy office also needs to differentiate itself. It also needs to educate the public. This is what we're responsible for. But mainly the difference is that NAMRA is a collector of revenue. The tax office or the Minister of Finance is responsible for policy. For instance, let's say we want to increase tax on certain items. That comes from the tax policy unit or from the Minister of Finance. Where the tax policy unit is housed. Mm-hmm. Let's say, for instance, we want to introduce capital gains tax. If you sell a property, for instance, and you make profit on that, you don't pay tax at the moment. Mm-hmm. So one will have to look at the merits and demerits of that. So that's a function of the Minister of Finance. It's not a function of NAMRA. So that's the function of the tax office under the Minister of Finance, the tax policy office or unit in the Minister of Finance. Mm-hmm. Once we have decided on that policy, NAMRA is then given the responsibility to go and collect that particular tax. So that's where the difference lies.
In that conversation, then is an issue to say, you as NAMRA, you're making good noise about why we should be paying tax.
Yeah.
But who decides how this money that has been collected is going to be used?
Yeah, that's very, very critical. So the Minister of Finance is given the responsibility to allocate the resources of government, of the state. And not of government, but of the state. Mm-hmm. So when we compile a budget, the budget is about how we allocate the resources that NAMRA is collecting. That's what we use to give resources to the Minister of Education, to buy school books, pay teachers, and build classrooms. That's the money that we use to give to the Minister of Health, to buy medicines, pay for doctors and nurses. So how do we go about doing that? Of course, there's also some stakeholder consultations. You have many of the public may probably have seen us, talking to different sectors in the economy, civil society, accountants, universities, the youth. We consult widely with many stakeholders before we put a budget together. And that process then defines what are the priorities. Of course, government has already formulated its priority through the development plans, like HPP2, for instance. That's the key document that we are using. Then the National Development Plan, NDPs, that's also another key document. These documents that outline the policy of government inform the direction in which resources are going. Plus, they are supported by our consultation on an annual basis or on a regular basis with members of the public, different key stakeholders before we compile a budget. So the budget is that instrument that distributes how the revenue that you are collecting is distributed.
As we end this one, and I take it you have indicated that you are quite happy with the establishment of NAMRA and what it's done to date. What are some of those key focus areas that you would want them to pay attention to if they are to become that credible institution that is envisaged?
Yeah, I believe, as I said, NAMRA is doing a good job. It's still a new baby. Of course, you must continue to strengthen your capacity as an institution to be able to deliver on your mandate. And what's your mandate is to collect tax efficiently. So efficiency is an important area of focus to ensure that you streamline your processes so that people don't stay too long in the queue, and I believe that is already improving, so please continue to improve on that. Tax compliance is important, but more importantly, before you come to tax compliance, tax education. Yeah, let the public know why is it important to pay tax. And I think we need to work together to marry the two. You collect the tax, we allocate the money. We need to tell the public how the money is allocated, although we announce that through the budget. But maybe we should also show them some tangible areas where their money goes. So I think that's a partnership between NAMRA and the Minister of Finance that we should forge going forward, so that people can see. When we build schools and hospitals and clinics, this is the tax that you have paid. This is what it's doing, because people don't make that connection. So education is important. Compliance, especially in the area of transfer pricing, I think it's important that we strengthen our capacity to ensure that the government gets its fair, or the state gets its fair due of what belongs to the state.
May I then thank you for dedicating time and engaging us. Hopefully this will not be the last, but the first of many to come.
Very, very, thank you very much for inviting me. I will always be happy to to come back.
Ipumbu Shili, Minister of Finance and Public Enterprises, talking to us about his impression with regards to the establishment of the Namibia Revenue Agency. Erastus Ismail is a Senior Customs and Excise Officer with the Trade Facilitation, Procedure and Compliance Division. He has 26 years of experience serving in various capacities. He is driven by the passion to know new things as well as taking on a challenge. But we ask, who's Erastus Ismail?
My name is Erastus Ismail. I have worked for Customs and Excise for more than 26 years. I have recently joined the Namibia Revenue Agency as a Senior Customs and Excise Officer at Trade Facilitation, Procedure and Compliance. What motivates me, I get motivated by my goals and objectives, which include career development, learning new things, and always seeking for challenge, but mostly my family. What I do currently at NAMRA, I'm responsible for registrations of bonds such as transit and temporary import. Moreover, we are also responsible for the registration and licensing of clearing agents and bonded warehouse. In addition, we are entrusted to develop and review new or existing custom procedures for the purpose of trade facilitation. My future plan, well, I have short-term plans and long-term plans. Now, my short-term plans is refine my personal skills and knowledge in order to master my current job, to ensure that NAMRA achieve its immediate targets, while my long-term plans is bringing about positive changes to my work environment by implementing efficiency and competency. My message to the viewers, NAMRA has clear goals and objectives which outline its future or vision. However, this can only be achieved if there is engagement or collaborations between NAMRA and its stakeholder. Therefore, I encourage our traders to visit any nearest NAMRA offices in their respective region to obtain any information related to import and export, as well as about the registration and licensing of clearing agents and manufacturers. Thank you.
A tax directive is vital in tax revenue collection, and the following insert focuses on who is required to get a tax directive from NAMRA.
Welcome to our video as part of our taxpayer education program. My name is Elsie Cavadas. Today we are discussing about tax directives. What is tax directive? Tax directive is a document that guides the employer and pension fund on how to tax an employee upon termination of date of service. All returns must be finalized and taxpayer must be in good standing of NAMRA. A Form C must be completed upon resignation, retirement, retrenchment. For retrenchment, approval letter from Ministry of Labour must be attached. Settlement agreement. If settlement is done through court, then a court case document is required. For ill health, approval letter from Public Service Commission as well as the medical board letter is required. Contract ended, additional income, board of directors and taxpayers having more than one income must provide us with a letter. The tax directives on estate, Form C must be completed by employee or pension fund administrators. Documents to be attached, it's a certified copy of death certificate as well as the ID. All beneficiaries must be registered for income tax, whether it's a minor. Very important. All beneficiaries must be registered for income tax, whether it's a minor. And then, with that we mean, it can be a 5-year-old child or a 10-year. All of them must be registered for income tax purpose. The tax directives are issued in 7 working days. Thank you for listening and goodbye.
It's now time for this week's trivia. Take a look.
Did you know VAT, value-added tax, is an indirect tax added to a price of goods or services consumed or supplied? Suppliers of goods and services collect VAT as a third party and paid to NAMRA. Some transactions are taxed at the rate of 15% or zero rate, while other transactions are exempt from VAT. Input tax deductions may be claimed. However, it's subject to certain provisions.
Serving with Passion.
NAMRA is very deliberate about trader education, and in the following insert is an explanation on the process followed when imported goods arrive at the airport.
We also just put an explanation on the procedures of Customs and Excise. As I said, Customs and Excise Department is under the Namibia Revenue Agency institution. When you are importing goods into Namibia, the law provides for you to declare those goods within 7 days. Now, when you declare these goods, Customs will then look at whether you have met all the requirements that are set in the law, and if it so happens that some of the requirements are not met, or you are unable to pay, or you are unable to provide certain payments, these goods are then you are given a grace period to either submit what is required, and if you fail to do that, these goods are then detained by Customs and Excise and put in the state warehouse. Now, by law, the goods are only supposed to be there for 90 days, and after which the goods will then be forfeited to the state. Now, after forfeiture, the Namibia Revenue Agency has now a responsibility to apply for authorization from the Treasury for the goods to become state property. Now, when the goods are authorized to become state properties, they are then, if they are useful to the society, they are then donated to whoever is chosen to receive that. Like in this specific case, we are talking about the Ministry of Health and Social Services. In case where the goods are harmful to the society, we are then destroying them. Now, the destruction is done under also relevant authorities. Like, for example, when the goods contain some environmental issues, we will of course involve in the Ministry of Environment, and if the goods are counterfeit, we involve the brand holders so that they just give a green light and certify that the goods are in fact counterfeit. In a nutshell, that's the process that Customs is following when it comes to the smuggled or goods that have been dealt with contrary to the provisions of the Customs and Excise Act.
Here's today's question. When did the appointment of the third-party agent standard operating procedure come into effect? Do email your answer to namrakachenu@namra.org.na. The winner will be announced in the next episode. Kindly note the due date for submission is on the 26th of January 2023.
Having shared all that content with you, it's time for us to sign off. Until next time, bye-bye.
Giving fairness and equality to our nation. We appreciate the difference in ethnicity. We have